I don't think you're rocking enough, my friend.
Yeah, it's awesome.
This is like 90s like rock, dude. Oh, there we go.
This is
Well,
us.
we might. This is y'all. This is a work in progress. Nate and I are working on this to get it to a vibe that we like, somewhere between Guns N' Roses and Indigo Girls, or the Smiths. I think
Can't
would
hear
be.
you.
What?
Can't
What?
hear you.
Are you kidding me? You're kidding me?
Turn the music down. It's
Is it
so
off
loud.
now?
Like you can't even hear what you're saying when the music's that
Can
loud.
I hear? Can you hear me?
I can't. I
Can
can
you?
now.
Okay, thank God. Okay. Anyway,
Yeah. Leave it.
uh, to that point, we are hiring a production specialist along with a fact checker. So anybody who would like to work for us as on a pro bono basis as an interim production specialist, whatever, and help with these things. I started our intro music 20 seconds into it and then left it on apparently for Nate to hear. So that was super fun. Anyway, back to what I was
Yeah.
saying. We're looking for intro music. We're gonna have something I think between, like I said, Nate couldn't hear me, but you all I think could hopefully somewhere between
Probably.
Guns N' Roses and Indigo Girls, and it's gonna be somewhere in there, and we'll find a perfect spot. Yeah, that'll be down the road a little bit probably. So today's episode is on.
Uh-oh. Well, now I know what it's.
It's on ADHD, right?
Okay.
And so this is something Nate and I have both struggled with a little bit. It's affected our lives when we were younger. It's affected our lives when we were older. It still affects us in some ways. So just to jump right in and get started on what this looks like, um, we're going to go down the list and we're going to check and see like the sort of the top 10 behaviors of somebody with ADHD. And I'm going to read these off and Nate can say yes or no, right? And then we'll see how he does and see if we
Where'd
can diagnose him.
where'd you get the questions from, by the way?
Well, I knew you were going to ask that. So
Fact check.
Nate is really big on sources. I am not.
All right. That's actually
This is GPT created because I had like 3 seconds to do it, and I didn't ask it for references, but it asked me if I like them.
I'll tell
So
you
next
what.
time I can give you like CDC references and crap or psych whatever.
I'm willing to bet that there are sources already within that thing and they're probably valid. So don't worry about it. I think we're good.
Okay, we're gonna trust AI for a minute. Um,
Totally.
So, here are 10 common behaviors associated with ADHD. And just to let you all know that Nate and I are not specialists. We're not even specialists in our own behavior. We don't understand ourselves. And we do not pretend to be experts in this like subject matter. So, um, please excuse us and don't, there should be no liability attached to us or any of our comments today. Just as a
Don't
disclaimer.
follow our advice. Just
Do not follow our advice. Just just feel
here.
sorry for us. Probably, I'd
Okay.
say, right? Feel sorry for our struggle, and we're gonna feel sorry for yours. Okay. But anyway, this is these are
That.
top 10 behaviors associated with ADHD. We're gonna run Nate down each one and see how he does. Number one, inattention. Okay, I can say yes already because I deal with Nate all the time, and this is a very obvious one I've noticed. Inattention, easily distracted, misses details, or has trouble staying focused on tasks or conversations. Nate, yes or no?
Yes, absolutely.
Okay.
Yep.
Impulsivity, acts without thinking, interrupts others, or struggles to wait their turn. Yes or no?
So this is definitely a legit quiz because I recognize the questions from several other tests that I took. So
Okay.
this is a tricky one. I do not tend to interrupt people, but I do act spontaneously sometimes and go all in on fringe things that I'll probably give up in a month. Yeah.
Oh, that's coming down. That's
Oh, that wasn't it.
double.
All right,
That's
keep
another
going.
one. Yeah, but you'll have
Sorry.
that one. So is this
Then
yes or
no on
no?
that one.
No.
We'll say
Okay.
no on that one.
Wow. You're doing pretty good. So far, you do not have ADHD. Just kidding. According to my expert
Dr.
analysis,
Draper.
years of experience in my professional opinion.
Right.
Hyperactivity, constantly moving, fidgeting, tapping, or talking excessively, especially in situations where it's not appropriate.
No.
Me
Mm-mm.
neither.
Yep.
No, I can stay pretty calm a lot of times. Disorganization, trouble
Yes.
keeping track of tasks, managing time, or maintaining an organized workspace or schedule.
Yeah, absolutely.
100,000%, right?
Yeah,
Yeah.
if my camera wasn't so hard to get fixed perfectly, I'd show you the
I was
offices.
just gonna say that same exact thing. I like, look, dude, I will take my little camera and show you my desk right now. I'll show you my wife's side and I'll show you my side. We share an office,
Yeah.
and mine is a what I like to call a visual paradise
Oh, I like that.
because I can look everywhere and I can see all my stuff, and I love it
That's
because I know exactly where things are.
the type of organization.
Yeah, I mean, if I put them in a flipping drawer, they disappear from my mind and reality. Okay.
Yep. Yep.
Forgetfulness frequently forgets daily responsibilities, appointments, or where items were placed.
That's so not fair. That's probably the big one. It's
Oh,
really,
good. How about poor task follow through?
yes.
Starts tasks or projects, but struggles to. Okay, so you just interrupted me, dude. So that goes back to impulsivity. Acts without thinking, interrupts others, or struggles to wait their turn. So if you didn't say yes on that one, you just got a yes on that one. You just
Yeah.
interrupted me.
No,
So
I
where
walked
was
up.
I? Where was I?
Yeah.
What happens when you put two ADHD people in a room trying to remember where they were in a list? Um, I think we're on, starts tasks or projects, but struggles to complete them, often leaving things half done.
Yes.
1,000%, right? Yeah.
No, no, 775% because I couldn't get to 1,000.
No, you can't because you never
No,
finish it.
because I never
Uh,
finished.
avoidance of sustained mental effort. Avoids or dislikes tasks that require a lot of focus, like long reading assignments or paperwork.
Yeah, that fits.
Yep. I hate paperwork too, dude. God, you give me a form and I'm like, dude, isn't there a faster way to do this? Can I give you a verbal yes instead of filling this form out? Right?
AI. Thanks,
AI,
AI.
AI, dude. Yeah. Emotional reactivity has quick mood changes, low frustration tolerance, or difficulty managing emotions.
Ooh, see, this is kind of a weird one. I think that this is imperceptible to most people, but this happens.
To
Um,
you?
hmm
Okay.
I can go dark real fast.
Like depression, dude? Like depression
hmm
dark?
hmm
Okay, before I get the last couple ones of these. So, what triggers you to get into depression dark? Because that's different than ADHD, right? Depression is different, right?
Yeah, yeah, and
Mental
again,
health
like this
wise.
is, I don't know, honestly, I don't know the difference between any of these because I think it's a very professional field that's able to identify them. So just based on how I feel, I go dark or feel frustrated or anxious when I feel misunderstood, which is a really, and I don't know if that really fits the bill for what we're talking about. So
So when somebody doesn't understand where you're trying to like, can you give me an example or like some sort of example or
I don't
an
know how you're not
instance?
understanding this already.
Wait, what?
I don't know how you're not understanding what I'm saying.
Oh, so that's depression time right there?
No, I don't know. I tell you
Okay.
what, let's just say no because I don't know how to. I don't know
You
how
know how
to.
to articulate it?
I guess not.
Okay, well,
Yeah.
listen, dude, we'll circle back to that. If
Okay,
you
we'll
think
come
of an
back to it.
instance or like an example that you can like share that like this happened and this is what led me to that, like
Yeah.
I think that'd be like a concrete way to express it. That way you don't have to you don't have to talk in the abstract. You can literally say, this is what happened. This is what sent me to that place. And I was frustrated.
Fair.
Okay. Um, let's see. Restlessness may feel an internal sense of being constantly on the go or have difficulty sitting still for long.
So I can sit still for a very long time. What I have a hard time with is shutting my mind down, and I'm not sure if that.
Oh, me too. Yeah. And I just interrupted also.
Yeah.
So that I
Yeah.
know.
You just gained 3 points, dude.
I did. That
hmm
sucks.
Please don't. By the way.
Okay. Difficulty listening. May seem like they're not listening even when spoken to directly. The mind may drift mid-conversation.
So absolutely on this, but I do have a talent for appearing to be engaged.
So do I. I'm really good
I
at
know
that.
you do. I
No,
know you
except
do.
except for the fact that
Yeah.
my wife literally called me out on it. Like we were visiting friends, and she literally like it was like way after, and she didn't call me out on the spot. She waited like a week, and then she was like, "Hey, I realized you're doing right now what you did when we were visiting, these friends of ours,
Ooh,
where they're all talking. I can literally see that your mind was somewhere else.
yeah.
And I was like, oh no. And so for
Yep.
me, that was really bad because
Yeah.
I figured if she
That's,
could see that, maybe they could see that. And that's rude. And I don't want to appear rude. So, I
to be
mean,
fair, some people are very boring.
oh, that's true. Yeah. And
That's
sometimes,
not on you, man.
well, I mean, honestly, Nate, for me, like almost everybody is really boring. Like I literally couldn't get bored with most, I mean, I just like think of other things.
It's
But I
true. He
mean,
went through 20 other people for this podcast and ended up
yeah,
with
I did, right?
mediocre.
But I mean, the whole mind racing thing, like my mind races at night, like I'll lay
Yes.
there and if I don't have like other stuff going on, like right now I'm distracted by life,
Why does
right?
your mind race? What are you thinking about?
Oh, literally everything.
Yeah.
I'm thinking about what I did today. I think about what I have to do tomorrow. I stress about like where my life's going.
Mm,
I think about like how am I going to get this done? I think about like, just like everything. Like I think it's literally where I lay there and try to problem solve and work out things that I need to work out. And it ends up keeping me awake like a lot. And it's literally
yeah.
things I could do the next day.
Yeah.
And when it's quiet and I have time for myself, I literally lay there and just think about stuff.
Yeah.
And I cannot shut, like literally there's been times where I literally just lay there and could not shut my mind off
Yeah.
and wished I could
Uh,
like hit myself with like a brick or like something like just pow, and like just shut me off, dude. Like I cannot shut off.
yeah. For the sake of
And
this conversation, I'm distracted by this flickering light. I'm shutting it off real fast. It's
oh,
killing
are you
me.
really? Oh my
Yeah.
gosh.
It's killing
I'm
me.
distracted by it too.
No, not that one. That one. Okay.
So, so
Yeah.
for me, like, so when did you first like? We went through all these little things and all these,
Yeah.
these 10 little behavior whatevers, and I'm right there with you. Where there's a couple of them where I'm not like, super, what do you call? They're not super relevant to me, but most of them are, or some aspect of them are.
Yeah.
Um, did you? So back when we were young, like I mean, we're clearly, Gen Xers, we're not in school anymore, or whatever. Back when we were young, did you have any inclination? Like this is not like ADHD has been around a long time, but they never talked about it, never diagnosed it, never had any kind of emphasis on it. They
I think it
literally just
was
like
I think
what did
it
you
was underdiagnosed and
so
not
it just
recognized properly.
right. And I mean, yeah. Well, I mean, but what so it's way like I mean everybody knows about it. Like it's common it's in the common vernacular. Like society
Yeah.
talks about this and if you said ADHD to somebody, they'd be like, "Oh yeah, I know,
Yeah.
it'd be common knowledge."
Oh,
What
yeah.
when you were little like in school, what was looking back now, like was there any inclination or anything that your teacher said or anything during school or
Mhm.
anything
Yes.
that now you're like, "Oh my gosh, that tracks. Like that totally
Yeah.
is accurate." And if so, what is it? Like what was that?
Yeah. So there it's so for me, and Aaron knows all this, but for me it's a little tricky because, and I promised I wouldn't go deep into this and I won't. I'll spend 30 seconds or less on it. But when I was 7, I was in a terrible skateboard accident, hit my head very, very hard, and ended up in a coma and with a sustained traumatic brain injury. So it's been very difficult to identify symptoms and to place them in the appropriate box because some of the symptoms that I've had could kind of be recognized in either condition with a TBI or ADHD. So when we talk about not paying attention, I mean, several times, I remember a time in elementary school where my history teacher called my name over and over and over, and I would not hear him. I could not hear him, and that's not my personality is to defy authority. That's not who I am. Um, Go ahead. What?
Yeah, I mean, back then, I mean, not hardly anybody did though, dude. I mean,
Yeah,
like that was the thing. Like, I mean, there was like back when we were in school, it was like there's the one kid maybe that was like talk back and sass the teacher or whatever.
yeah,
But most of us like fell in line and were actually really stressed or worried that if we did something out of line, that we number one get sent to the principal's office, right? Or number two, worse, get a note home or
yeah,
they call home and then we'd be doomed because it wasn't like our parents took our side
yeah.
for our generation. Like for our generation, our parents sided with the teacher,
Right.
right? Like
Yeah,
if we like, if the teacher like, stabbed us a couple times, and they'd be like, "Oh, well, dude, what did you do to deserve that?"
Hmm.
Right? So yeah, I can see, Nate, that that wouldn't be something like, that you would do, right? Because
Well,
none of us did that.
and so later on, it was sort of like, because I have epilepsy, which I don't mind talking about, and so it was also theorized that maybe I had a seizure, and that's the reason I wasn't paying attention. So so again, it's really hard for me to categorize some of this, which is why, and not to break up the conversation, but I think it's important to say that I went and was diagnosed with ADHD about 2 years ago, um, and after that, I was like, do I really though? Like it was like really bugging me that who knows, maybe one person is off. So I went back to another person, same thing. So now that I know that that's a thing, I just sit there and wonder what is what. Am I not paying attention because of ADHD, or am I not paying attention because something else? I don't know.
You're bored. You're legitimately bored of the
Or I'm
person who's talking.
legitimately bored. Yeah, yeah,
Because sometimes that happens. I mean, you can't rule that out either, dude,
yeah,
because people are boring.
yeah,
They have like really boring stories. I mean, you and I are probably boring right now. And people are probably like, going, oh my gosh, I'd rather watch paint dry, than listen to these two dudes.
yeah.
So I think there is a boring element. But also like why'd you go see a doctor? Like what prompted
Um,
that? I mean, aren't you old? Like how old are you?
yeah, I'm 50.
Yeah, you're old. Okay, you're
Yeah,
technically old. So why, who
super
cares
old.
now?
Yeah, well, that's the thing is this stuff. It's funny because sometimes this is performance because I already know enough about Aaron to know that he knows what I'm about to say, but I think it's worth the conversation anyway. Yeah, that's right. That's right. This is happening. So, I mean, my entire life I've struggled with learning. Learning is a very difficult thing for me. Some stuff comes easier than others. Music, for some reasons, not terribly difficult for me. But picking up a book and learning, very difficult for me. Studying and learning, extremely difficult. And it's haunted me through school. It's haunted me through all different kinds of things, but more particularly and frighteningly in my job. It's a very difficult thing to rest at night, and this is where the anxiety and the sleeplessness comes from. To worry that maybe the people that you're working with think maybe you're not paying attention or don't care about your work, when in fact I just I'll jump into a conversation and just don't even know where to start because I can't remember the conversation that happened before that. um,
Right.
so when I was so a couple of years ago, I'm like, I'd already done a lot of stuff. I had tried a lot of stuff to work on memory and being able to participate in meetings with previous information that I'd attained. And finally I'm just like, I gotta go talk to somebody. So, but ADHD diagnosis is not exactly a silver bullet either. I still don't know how to remember certain things. So,
Well, I think too, I mean, if we're talking about like behavioral things that like they say are associated with ADHD, I mean, one of the things they said is like, um, where is it at? Avoids or dislikes tasks that require a lot of focus.
yep.
Like long reading assignments or paperwork. That tracks, dude, to me with like homework and heavy reading and having to like follow, like I mean, so after you saw the person you met with, right, who diagnosed you, um, what did your exams look like? Like how'd they diagnose you exactly? Did you just talk to them and share like what you're feeling, or were there like any kind of scientific,
Yeah. So
things?
there
I'll
were,
I'll share mine after you, but I was wondering
okay.
what your experience was like.
Yeah. So the first one was I've had written, like written tests, exams, whatever you want to call it, where you fill in the bubbles. Like here's on the scale of 1 to 10, here's how easily do I get distracted, and then I fill in the bubble, and
Oh
uh,
yeah, okay.
you know what I mean. And so there's
Yeah.
like a questionnaire and stuff you can do, and they have them online, and some are much better than others. Um, but so the first time I went through that whole thing and had a conversation, and after a while they're like, this is looking pretty ADHD. And so um anyway, the second time was a little comical. So the second time I was waiting for the exam, and within 5 minutes he said, let me cut you off. He's like, absolutely ADHD. He's like, no question in my mind. Like he
Wait,
just
he hadn't met you yet? I mean, he hadn't even like done any cool like.
no. no
psycho
tricky
stuff?
stuff. So I had already given him a hint. I'm like, hey, I was diagnosed. You
Oh,
know, so kind of leading the witness, not exactly super scientific,
right.
but I told him I've been diagnosed, and I said it's great that I've been diagnosed on paper, but I just don't. I'd like some reassurance because before I start taking medicine or telling people that I have anything like ADHD, I'd like to know that that's true before,
Yeah.
because everybody
No.
has ADHD if you talk to them,
No,
right?
right.
I
Right.
mean, people are listening to this checklist right now. They're like, "Oh, that's me, that's me, that's me," and so it's really
Yeah.
easy for people to self-diagnose and be like, "Well, that's
Right.
that's ADHD or whatever." But anyway, so I spoke to the second guy, and he actually has become somebody that I actually go and visit every month, and he's been extremely helpful.
That's
But
awesome.
he's like,
So is he
I
like a
said, fine.
legit is he like a legit therapist? Like that's what he does? Is like, oh, that's
Yeah,
awesome. Okay.
yeah, yeah,
Did
he's
he
the
give
real
you
deal.
did he give you any medicine?
The first doctor gave me medicine, and then because I wasn't super comfortable with the first guy that diagnosed me, I just flipped over to this guy's practice, and then he started prescribing um, after that.
What do you
So
prescribe? What do you prescribe you?
this is so it's got a whole bunch of different names, but basically an Adderall. You
That's I think
know,
mine's like Ritalin or something. I don't know. I have
yeah.
like
So
I
yeah,
have like a I don't even know what I have. I have but whatever I have is like a generic of what I'm supposed to get. But
yeah.
it
Well, I
but I
mean, yeah.
so when you took it, I mean, do you still take it? I don't.
I do. I took it this
Oh, you
morning.
do?
Yeah.
Okay.
Mhm.
I don't take mine.
Yeah.
I took mine and I found it really hard to regulate, number one.
Yeah.
And the second and he said you're gonna have to figure and work out doses and stuff like that, whatever. And I took it and my wife like hated it.
Uh,
She
yeah.
said I turned into like a zombie.
Yeah.
And she literally asked me the first time I was on it, she asked me like probably 5 to 10 times that day, like, are you mad at me? She kept
Mm,
asking me, are you mad at me? Are you mad at me? And I'm like, what? What is going on? No, I'm not mad at you. Like, why would you
mm,
ask that? And she said it was because my whole demeanor, and I didn't feel it and I couldn't tell. I just felt a little more calm, I think,
mm-hmm,
than I normally do, you know? I just felt a little more like calm, I guess,
mm,
is how I would describe it. But she described it as like I was just like a walking zombie and had no like
mm.
energy and was like literally just like, you know, void, absolutely void of personality.
Yeah.
And I didn't know that it did that. And so,
Mm,
um, yeah, I found the medication to be a little bit tricky. And so I stopped taking it. It
hmm.
just because it affected her, and she said she'd prefer not me,
Yeah.
take it. And
Yeah.
so, I mean, but
Understandable.
you seem normal. I mean, you seem, well, not normal, I guess, but
Well,
you seem how I remember you being, and I don't feel see any change in you in terms of
yep.
energy or mood. So
Right.
you must have got your
So
dosage right then.
I don't know.
Or
So I've spent a little bit of time reading about this, and the first thing, and I feel like this has to be said before this episode ends. ADHD manifests in 1,000 different ways. Two people with ADHD do. Wow, what was that?
that is June. She is a little cat that is very curious about and will all often step on my keyboard and somehow manage to hit the keys that like delete stuff and like
Yeah.
cause major problems on my computer. So
Well, they say
I had
that
to remove that
they say
fuzz thing.
that 12 cats on keyboards will eventually duplicate Mozart's work, which is a really fun fact that I prefer nobody went and looked up. So, um, but it's really important to mention that ADHD cases very rarely look exactly the same as each other, which is one of the
No,
reasons
right.
it's so hard to diagnose.
Right. And I know I mean I know that. I just didn't know that like
Yeah,
I just thought that
but
the medicine would work a
I'm
little
going to the
different.
flip side of what you're saying though,
Yeah.
because you're saying that the medicine, kind of conked you out, made you a little bit more like a zombie, even though you didn't feel it, even though it wasn't something that you could identify on your own. It had to
Right.
be your wife that, somebody on the outside looking in saying, oh, this is something I'm noticing. So for me, I don't think that anybody was able to pinpoint any difference in my behavior or how I acted or anything
Right.
else. But
That's
for
awesome.
me, yeah. But for me, I noticed a little bit more clarity. Not like magic, not like amazing, like, oh my gosh,
Dude, that's
I can
all I
remember
wanted.
everything.
Yeah.
I know,
So,
I know.
so my experience was little kid. I look back now, and all of my report cards I did well in school, but I always got excessive talking, excessive
Mm,
talking, excessive talking, excessive
mm,
talking. And I mean that I think that's part of my personality. I think now,
yeah.
that like component. But I think as a kid I was bored easily and didn't like, but I remember that showing up on my report card, right? So it wasn't until I never actually considered any of this because I don't know if my tasks mattered as a kid or in high school or any of the tasks I've done. Me being able to finish tasks and focus on them. I remember in AP art in high school, I would draw things and draw stuff like in my drawing class, and
Yeah.
I would draw things and then I would start them and never really finish them because I'd find like flaws and
Yeah.
things I couldn't fix, and then I'd abandon them
Mm,
like 80% of the way in.
yes.
And I
Yeah.
have I found that art book in storage like a couple months ago, and I looked at it and I was just laughing because I'm like, dude, not a single one of these not a single one of these pieces is finished, dude. Like you
Yeah.
literally just like abandoned each of them and started another something else on the next page.
Yeah.
And so I was like, okay. But I mean, I didn't know at the time, right? And it took
Yeah.
me being in law school, and I'm in law school, I'm getting ready to study for the bar, and I've got to sit here for like 8 hours a day and study. And I swear, Nate, I would sit and stare at the computer, and after about 5 minutes, I'd have to read the same thing like 5 times. And I'm like, dude, why do I have to read this 5 times? I should like don't doesn't anybody else when they read a sentence go, okay, cool, I understood that, and they can read the next sentence?
So were
Not
you
me.
diagnosed at this point?
No,
Okay.
no. I'm sitting here struggling, and I'm like, I'm never going to pass the bar or be able to take the bar
Yeah.
if I can't read longer than a couple sentences and retain it. And
Yeah.
then I would sit there and I'd get into something and I'd be so bored in like contracts or something, reading through some of this stuff, and I'd literally just like start staring at the wall, and it
Yeah.
would go like this is how it would go. It'd go, contract formation. Okay. Blah, 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 blah. And then all of a sudden, and I look at the wall and go, wow, why does that seem like that in the wall? And I'd be like, dang, it looks like they didn't patch that right. And they didn't like sheetrock it and caulk it right. And wow, I'm going to take that off and probably redo that because why didn't they do that right? And then I start looking around the room and going, dude, there's another seam that I can see that they didn't really patch right. And I
Yeah.
wonder who did this crappy job.
Yeah.
This is me studying for the bar,
Yeah.
staring at my wall, finding places that I think need to be frickin' patched. What?
Yeah.
So
So how did you
it's
get
just,
through that? Like, because I mean, that was, I mean, I know you and I talked about it for years, right? You studying for the bar. So
yeah.
how did
So I
that
failed
go?
the bar. So I failed the
Okay.
bar. That was awesome. But
Yeah.
before I failed the bar, I went and talked to a therapist. I went and talked to a therapist, and he gave me these things that those little sheets to fill out, like he gave you,
Yeah.
and like rate yourself this and this. And I tried to
Hmm.
be as honest as I could. He also gave them to Willow, my wife, and gave them to her, and she rated them. And when I gave them back to the therapist, he looked at hers and mine, and he started laughing, and I was like, what? And he's like, yeah, it looks like your wife is really being honest here. And it looks like she gave you worse grades in all of these like categories than you gave yourself. So he said, it sounds like you're being a little easy on yourself. And I was like, oh my God, I can't believe that. He goes, I think her responses are probably more accurate. But he
Yeah.
actually had your spouse like also do one to
Yeah.
show like maybe to to get another opinion of like
Yeah. That's a
what
good
you like,
idea.
right? So then I did that, met with him, did another couple of things, and then I had to watch this dumb game that was super boring, and I had to click this little button. Did you do this too? It
Yeah.
was like
Yeah.
it was like a little like old fashioned like ball or something that would I don't know if it bounced. And he said as soon as it comes to this spot, you hit the thing,
Yeah.
and then it would like literally fake you out, and it wouldn't do it, and you go and you'd press it because you'd anticipate it doing it,
Yeah.
and it was anyway, I would start doing that, and I was so competitive and so pissed because I didn't want to lose that I was
This
literally
is,
trying to push it every time, but I still freaking blew it and like would get real lazy and distracted and like lose attention and like
yeah.
focus, and then I would like have a crappy score. But
Yeah.
anyway, he said, "Yeah, dude." He goes, "You are a textbook ADHD." He goes, "This is why you can't focus to study. You need to like, take some of this stuff and regulate and see what amount you need of this drug to help you so that you can have, clarity. If not, it's going to be really hard for you to sit and go over this really, really like technical and like expansive material and try to like, like remember it and, retain it. And I did it, and I did it and studied for the bar, and it just happened that I missed it by like 10 points. It was during COVID, the bar, California bar went online. My computer shut off a couple times during the process, and I freaked out and stressed out. Didn't sleep
Was
the
it
night before.
proctored?
Um, no,
Okay.
no. Wait, what does proctored mean? Does that mean?
It's like, so you do it in your house, but they got
Oh
cameras
no, it
on
wasn't our
you.
house. We had to go to law. I went to law school to do it. We each
Yeah,
got a
that makes
room.
sense. Okay.
Yeah, and they had a little video camera on you checking to see if you're cheating and stuff.
Yep.
Anyway, super stressful. Their software failed a couple times, and they
Nice.
offered to like let me take the bar again for free, and which is really super nice. And I'll be taking it again. It was just a big, really stressful experience, but it was that whole experience led me to go, oh, I need to fix this, right? There's something wrong with me that I can't figure this out, and my peers are able to sit for 8 hours and study, and I'm losing my mind in 10 minutes. And I think that, Nate, that I mean, that and how I organize my office,
Hmm.
which some like my wife would probably say organized is probably not the word she'd use, but I have things in stacks. And I have like visual permanence or something, or whatever. I can't remember what it's called, but it's when if you look at things, you know where they are, and the second
Yeah.
they're moved or put somewhere
Yeah.
else, you're
Yeah.
like, and you can't remember
So
where they
this
are.
actually tracks back to Chico when you and I lived together. Like I saw this in your room. Like everything was out, and I think it was because it was easier for you to identify and find things.
Oh yeah,
Um,
it was a
I
wreck,
just
but
I didn't recognize it as a system, but looking back now I see
yeah,
that makes sense to me.
yeah.
Huh.
It's like a visual system, right? I don't have like, where my wife will like put like little tabs on stuff and file things away and have folders and everything is all organized. Has
Yeah.
a little password like notebook. I'm like, all over the place and my stuff's out, right? So when she puts
Yeah.
one of my things away, it's lost. So I mean, half of my text I think to her to a week are "I love you," hun, and the other half of my texts are "Hey, do you know where I put my blank?" or "Do you know where my blank is? Have you seen my blank?" it's like, it's like that, and
Yeah.
she'll attest to the fact that I mean I can't find my stuff a lot of the time. So I mean that
Not
and
fun.
finishing things and not starting. I am a great starter. Like man, if you gave me like anything, any idea or something to like, uh, let dude make a startup. I am the king of startups.
Yeah.
I'm just not the king of finish ups.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yep.
Like I don't finish things, but if somebody else could take the reins who's really good at like finishing things, I would, we'd be great.
Well, I
I'm
mean,
not that guy.
I know this about you, and this is actually something that I identify with. You and I have talked for 25 years about different startups and inventions and different ideas that we have for companies. We do this all the time. We always have amazing ideas, and not one of them have we followed through on. And we got
No,
some pretty freaking
no.
good ideas. We should be
Which to
billionaires.
me though, this right here, you said something, and I told my class this. I told my class at Butte College. I told my students. I said, I hope Nate doesn't get ticked at me. I mean, they don't know you, so you're still sort of confidential. But I said, I don't know if it's his therapist that said to him to this, or somebody gave him this advice that said, just don't do nothing.
Freaking HIPAA, dude. What are you doing? You can't
Oh,
do that.
what? Okay, well, hopefully
Lawsuit. I'm gonna have to sue a lawyer. Whatever. Keep going.
anyway, I told them that, and
Yeah.
they all were like light bulbs are going off. They're like, ah, like wow, that's what great advice. Like they don't have to think and have do this big chunk. They don't have to have the end in mind. They just
Mhm.
have to not do nothing,
Yep.
and that is doable. And
It
so, like,
is.
for me, like this channel, Nate, I mean, honestly, us starting this channel and continuing to keep it and do it, regardless of subscribers, regardless of like views, I mean, just to have the discipline to keep doing it to me. And yeah, the intro music's not there. Like, we don't have, I mean, we're not super sophisticated, not super polished yet. But the
Speak for
fact that we're
yourself.
just not doing nothing when we want to do this show or this channel, I think is really good. I think we're following that advice of just do something, just don't do nothing. And I think that helps. I think that's actually helped me. And so, I mean, you can tip your therapist, like for me, like $50, I'll Venmo him or whatever. But just tell him it's helped not just you, but it's helped me, and it's also helped some of my students, like with stuff. So it's
It's
really
funny
cool.
because people are all the time telling me, just do one little thing, do one small little thing. And even that sounds overwhelming sometimes for
It
some reason.
does, 100%. Like, what do I
But
do? I mean, right?
but when he said don't do nothing, like for some reason my brain was like, oh yeah, I know what that means. I can
Yeah,
do that.
I can do that. No, what's
Yeah.
cool too is like, dude, I can do that.
Yeah.
I can not do nothing.
Mhm.
That's like nothing's like nothing. And if I just do one little tiny thing toward anything, that's success. Well, hell
That
yeah,
counts.
dude. I'll do
Sure.
that.
Yeah.
Right?
Yep.
Anyway, man, we're already at our time.
I know.
We're actually
I
over
know.
time.
Of
So
course we are.
anyway, great discussion. I think we should have other chats on mental health because I know ADHD is not one of the most, I don't know, like one of the most like, like major mental health, concerns. I know it is for us, but there are way harder mental health challenges to deal with for people. And I think we should get into that in another episode. But yeah, I mean, do you have any final parting words or like advice to people like that are struggling or, I don't know, that are
So
us that haven't been diagnosed yet? What would you say to us,
the thing is, like you mentioned at the outset, we truly don't know what we're talking about.
Right.
This is one little conversation with two people who are just trying to find their way through some tricky, stuff that they deal with in their daily lives. So, if something resonates with you, awesome. If it doesn't, I don't know. But the it's kind of a rabbit's hole. It's very interesting. It's an interesting topic, and typically the reason I keep going into is because I'm trying to figure out if there's a way to make myself better. Remember
Yeah,
more, whatever.
100%.
So but what I would say is if it's something that affects you, or even if any of these symptoms affect you, it doesn't have to be ADHD. It could just be some of these things that really get to you and you want to work on it. I think don't do nothing is perfect advice.
100%. In fact, that's
Do
what I was going to
something.
leave with.
Yeah.
Yeah. I was just going to leave with like literally like I think that's probably the best advice that I mean, I've been given, and I think it's the best advice we can give other people, from our like struggles and our experience is just dude, don't do nothing. That's
Yeah.
it. Point
And
simple.
I feel like we should acknowledge that there are people with much, much, much worse things that we deal with. And so I don't want to minimize, and pretend
Oh,
that what we
100%.
deal with is, anything near what some people go through. So just,
Right, right. No, and honestly, I'm very grateful. This is one of the things I have to deal with because I do consider it does affect my life 100% and the people I know and love,
yeah.
true. But I do consider it a very minor, you know, one of the very minor things that like, affects us. So yeah,
Yeah.
I'm pretty grateful that that's what we're dealing with. Anyway, yeah, great talk, Nate. Um,
Yep. As always.
well done. Yeah,
You too.
I'm not going to
Nicely
interrupt
done.
you right now, even though I'd love to, and I'm absolutely bored out of my mind.
I haven't been able to get a word in edgewise for
I've
about
been
10
so
seconds.
bored during this entire conversation, and I'm not even sure how I was able to focus. But yeah,
So this is stuff that he usually says after we cut, calls me and
yeah,
starts
right.
berating me.
I know.
But I'm glad you
Well,
did it on air. Thank you.
he's on meds and I'm not, so that's my excuse. I'm going to leave it at that.
Fine. That's fine. All right.